Hello, everyone. It is Zen Money Monday. I am Liz Lajoie, the Zen Money CFO, and today we're going to talk about financial wealth building with my good friend, Brian Bogaert, who is a financial and wealth coach. He's based in the Toronto area, but he works with clients all over the place. And we're going to get into why people have a hard time getting where they want to be financially. That's what I want to talk about anyway. But Brian, welcome.
Hi, Liz. How are you doing this morning?
Great. So Brian, for people who don't know you, can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing now and how you came to become a financial and wealth coach? It's the wealth coach part that everyone wants to know about, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And to start things off, my dog is all excited about Zen Money Mondays as well. He's over here having a fit. One of the joys of working from home. So I became a money and wealth coach about 4 years ago. And about 15 years ago, I was working in the corporate world, in the cubicle farm, doing that. And it was a great opportunity, but it just wasn't my cup of tea. I found out that my cubicle neighbor was investing in real estate, something that I didn't know anything about. So I started talking with him. We wound up doing a property together. I had just finished reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I'm sure a lot of your listeners are familiar with that. And the next thing you know, I suggested we start a company and we start bringing this to a whole bunch of other people that would want to learn more about it. That's exactly what we did. And things went really well. And both of us retired from our corporate jobs 4 years later, because we saw what was coming before the crash, suggested to our investors, hey, now's the time to sell and, get our cash off the table. And of course, we looked like pretty smart guys after what happened in 2009 and 2010. So after that crash, I was like, how come, so many people got wiped out listening to financial advisors and people at their banks. And then there's this small percentage of people who actually built phenomenal wealth during that period. And I just became absolutely fascinated with money and debt and leverage and investing and like, how does this happen? So I've spent the last decade going to all the seminars, reading the books, learning from the masters, and being an investor myself. And then 4 years ago, I decided to open up my coaching business after the prodding of good friends and clients and investment partners, because money, as you know, is a topic that a lot of people feel intimidated and confused about. And there's not a lot of resources out there that you can trust to give you objective information, to educate you. It seems like everybody just wants to sell you something.
Yeah. And it's an interesting thing to feel like someone wants to sell you something when it's about the conversation around money, because I think for many people, there's an inherent, we kind of seize up around it a little bit. So how do we have the conversation in a meaningful way that is sort of a non-threatening, non-salesy kind of way?
Absolutely.
My question, so have you always been interested in money?
So I consider myself very lucky that my parents taught me about money when I was a kid. And I come from a family of savers, so I've always been a saver. I was that 17-year-old kid that, when me and my friends went out for dinner and the rest of them are emptying their pockets and they can't even cover the bill, never mind the tip, and I'm putting in the extra 20 to make sure. Like, I've always had money. So it's not like I was super interested in it, but I got a great foundation. It wasn't until this concept got introduced to me through Rich Dad, Poor Dad, through The Millionaire Mind by Harv Eker, through the guy I was sitting beside at work, that money, the more money you create for yourself, the more freedom you can have in your life. And for me, freedom is really what I'm after. And I just recognize that money is the vehicle for me to be able to achieve more freedom, right? Because when I have more money, I have more choice. It's really that simple. Right? So that's why I've become interested in money, not for money for its own sake. I mean, it's just paper or numbers on a computer, right?
Right. Money for its own sake is not really the end goal. And I think that's where many of us get caught up, is around this idea of more, bigger, better. We've talked about this in other conversations, and how that's not necessarily the dream. We need to figure out how to tie money goals to something different, in your case, financial freedom, And I know that's the language and the conversation you have with many of your clients. What do you think when you work with people, because you actually work with quite a few entrepreneurs, as you're helping them learn how to become better investors and how to analyze potential opportunities and things like that? What is the biggest issue you see facing entrepreneurs, whether they're just starting out or whether they've hit 7-8 figures? What is the one thing that really riles people up around this?
Well, Liz, you posted a question on social media the other day, and I was fascinated and paying attention to all the comments, and it was right in this area of, you know, entrepreneurs and money and that. And the question that you had posted was around like, hey, what would you rather have? A 7-figure business where you're, you know, maybe you're taking home about 100 to 200,000, or a smaller 6-figure business where you're still taking the same amount home? And everybody was immediately, all the entrepreneurs that responded were immediately drawn to this, oh, I need the gigantic business with the big team. And then what they're not saying, but you and I know, is the extra stress and the headaches and the long weeks and the extra work. And it's like, where have we been convinced, especially as entrepreneurs, that bigger is always better, that gross revenue is the answer, or what success looks like? And you know what I've really uncovered in working with entrepreneurs is so many of them, they look successful on the outside with the 6-figure, the 7-figure business, but they're absolutely stressed. They have tons of anxiety. They're still behind in taxes and carrying debt, and they're still worrying from month to month to month. Meanwhile, the people just starting out are like, oh, that's where I want to get to what they have. But in reality, they don't have any more personal success or freedom or choice than the people starting out. And in a lot of cases, they would be better off going and getting a job and working for somebody else, because that would allow them more of a life, if you will. So for me, one of the big things, I mean, there's 2 main areas that I really focus on. One of them is on the mindset. And that's, again, where you and I connect on this, is we know if you don't deal with the emotional, psychological aspect of money, all the tips and strategies and budget spreadsheets are not going to do anything, right? You have to deal with that mindset. You have to deal with the emotional issues around money. The second big piece that I wind up talking with entrepreneurs all the time about, how much profit are you making? Not just gross revenue, but what are your expenses versus that revenue, and are you creating any profit? Have you ever watched, you guys have a Shark Tank in the US. Up here in Canada, we have Dragon's Den, same basic premise. But I've always been fascinated that, you know, one of the first questions they always ask the guests is, what's your revenue? How much money have you made? But then as they go a little deeper into questions, they always ask, how much are you paying yourself as an entrepreneur? And if that entrepreneur says, oh, I haven't paid myself in 5 years, or it's a really small amount, you can see the shark suddenly back away, because they recognize that that is not a successful business that they would then want to invest in, unless it is producing profit for that actual entrepreneur. So that's a big thing that I wind up dealing with a lot.
That is such a huge topic. We were going to have to talk more about this at another time, but I think that in a nutshell is a really great visual for people to take away, because the reality is, especially post.com era, I see a lot of people in the entrepreneurial space, depending on where they're living and the people they're running with, talking about getting investment funds and getting other people to support their businesses, and a la sort of tech boom era stuff. Yep. And it's interesting because that really, the idea of getting an investor a la Shark Tank or whatever show it is that we want to be watching, or just the idea of I need a cash inflow, is so interesting, right? It keys all of our triggers of like, oh, I could get a cash influx because that's really what's going to catalyst my growth. But we don't necessarily think about, one, the logistics of that are actually quite complicated. And the people who are investing often have quite significant expectations for you and what your profit is going to be. They want to see that they're going to get a return on that. And for a lot of people who are just starting out, you know, somewhere in the 6-figure, maybe even 7-figure range, you're, one, potentially giving away control of your business. I've seen that happen unintentionally. All of a sudden, somebody actually owns your business, and you've built something and you have no say. And two, there are other ways to support yourself that don't involve creating this structure that is overwhelming and doesn't actually drive your business forward, right? So if you are a service-based business thinking about getting outside investment support or, crowdfunding or something along those lines to catalyst you, there are other options. It sounds great on paper, but it may not take you where you want to go. So I'm really glad you brought that up too, because there's this, I want to talk more about your work with people in terms of creating investments and investment opportunity as entrepreneurs. But also there's this idea of getting investment into your business. And I want everybody listening to be conscientious about what that might mean for you down the road, and not just see the shiny dollar sign opportunity of it all.
Absolutely. I actually had, we have a mutual friend who's looking into this. He's worked in the tech boom industry, and one of his interesting observations was a lot of times when an entrepreneur has this angel investor come in, the angel investor's expectations really don't include the success of that business, at least not the way the entrepreneur looks at success. They just want to make money. And in a lot of cases that winds up, it can wreck that business or wreck the original intent of that business. On Shark Tank, you look at a guy like Kevin O'Leary, right? He doesn't care whether your business is successful or not. He just cares whether he's making money. So all of a sudden, that's going to come with a bunch of conditions that might not be in your best interest, right?
And it might not be in line with you and I both work with and know so many people who are so mission driven and so want to make a difference in the world. And if we're building a business to be a vehicle for that, which is an awesome opportunity and a great thing to build, the idea of bringing in partnerships or angel investing or whatever it might be, I've seen people go into that and they just lose all of that to somebody else's mission, which often is just putting money on the bottom line. So I think it's a balancing act around one. As a business owner, you have to understand what is actually happening at the bottom line. You and I have talked about how important that number is. Gross revenue is a great, fun place to play, but the bottom line revenue, bottom line profit is such a better place to really see and gauge your success. And it's where other people who are understanding how business works are going to gauge your success as well.
Well, hey, if your business is making $1 million, but you're spending $1.2 million to get there, you're still in debt $200,000, right? That's not my definition of success. But Liz, you hit on another great point about mission-driven people and entrepreneurs. Now, personally, I love, and I know you love, we as money coaches, as wealth coaches, as CFO coaches, we can actually become a tool in the toolkit of those entrepreneurs. We can help the money stop being stressful, be something easy, be something that's working for them. Now they've got all sorts of extra time and energy that was going to be spent freaking out about money and doing all this stuff that they don't really understand. Now they can be free to really pursue that thing that they want to do to make a difference in the world. And I look at it as through transitive property, I'm helping to make that difference in the world as well by supporting that entrepreneur. So I love becoming kind of a member of their team to support them in doing these things. Now, there was one other thing I want to mention today, and I talk to a lot of my entrepreneur clients about this. Everybody here has heard of Warren Buffett and Bill Gates, right? Perhaps the most successful investor and one of the most successful businessmen of all time. Well, do you know what Warren Buffett and Bill Gates are up to these days? Most people don't. So Bill Gates, kind of talked Warren Buffett into this. The two of them have been giving away their wealth on a massive scale in the billions of dollars to create positive change in the world, eradicating disease, fresh water, housing, the sorts of problems that most developed countries are barely even able to take a shot at. These two successful entrepreneurs are actually making a difference. And Liz, there's no way they would have been able to do that had they not created personal success and their own fortunes or their own wealth. So all those entrepreneurs out there that are worried about, oh, well, if I start focusing on profit, I'm not going to be making my difference in the world. And, money is not something I want to be focused on. I get it. Everybody knows you want to make a difference. I want to make a difference. by building wealth in your business and for yourself, you actually launch yourself into a different stratosphere for the kind of difference that you can make in the world. And I love it when I see something like that.
Yeah, that's a really great, I'm so glad you brought that up. As you know, that's exactly what's at the core of my second book, Zen Money Map. It's this idea that there's so many people who get into the entrepreneurial space who aren't trained in business, who want to just make a difference, and maybe who are, some of the ticky-tacky behind the scenes stuff feels a little overwhelming or too corporate, right? That I don't want to be driven by the bottom line. Let's not be driven by the bottom line just for the numbers' sake or for the profit's sake. But there's so much potential there to build a bridge to your personal life, to live the life you want to live, even if that's just paying off your mortgage, which is a huge accomplishment, let's be honest. But above and beyond that, to have resources available to make that bigger impact in the world. And I think that's where your true love comes in, based on our conversations, is really around teaching people how to become, once you have extra cash lying around that you're like, oh boy, I better do something with this. This is when things get, I think, really fun for you, because you really help people understand how to look at new investment opportunities and ways to increase that wealth so that you can do bigger things.
You hit the nail on the head, Liz. That's when it gets really exciting for me. I mean, don't get me wrong. I still like showing people how to manage their money better in business and personal and that. But yeah, when I really get jazzed is now we're going to start talking about taking some of those savings or that retained earnings that you're creating, and what are we going to do with that? Because here's the beautiful part about money. It works 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It never takes a sick day. It never goes on vacation, right? When you set it up correctly, it's working for you all the time. And I find this winds up becoming an interesting concept for entrepreneurs as well, because they've, again, been taught, oh, I always have to be working. I know lots of entrepreneurs, when they go to take vacation, they get all stressed out because, well, what am I missing out on? And what if a client comes in? And what if things happen? Well, I'll tell you, as an entrepreneur who started as an investor, the fact that I know that I have my investment capital working for me, and at this point, it actually produces more money than my business does. So what if I have a lean time in my business? What if, my mother just turned 80 on Saturday? What if she suddenly became ill and I had to go and stay with her for a couple of weeks? What if I was to become ill or got in an accident or something like that? So the beautiful part of becoming an investor as well as a business owner and learning to get your money working for you is so much of that stress and worry just drops away. Because I know I have other sources of income. I don't have all my eggs in one basket, right? Now, again, I know for entrepreneurs, well, for everyone, it takes some real mindset change to get there. I know I had some I remember the first time my cubicle partner said to me, what are your goals? And I was like, well, I don't know. And he's like, what about becoming a millionaire? And I was like, well, that's too much. Why would I? That seems like excess. Why would I want to do that? I don't know if I deserve that. All this stuff came up for me. So
who am I to be the person who has this much money? It seems like greedy.
Right? Exactly. And why should I get this versus somebody else and all that? So, I wound up, like I said, I did a lot of seminars and programs and work around this. And that's what I now do a lot of with my client is I help them get through some of the emotional baggage that might be around about money that we inherited from our parents, from society, from the media, from all the messaging that we heard. A lot of people, as you know, are carrying guilt and shame and confusion and intimidation about money. And if we don't address that, nothing's going to change in the long run. So you're right. That's the exciting part for me, is helping them break through that. And then now it's the path to financial freedom and someone to show them step by step how to get there.
What are your favorite ways to invest?
Oh, so I mean,
5 seconds or less. No.
Yeah, I absolutely love real estate investing. There's a number of reasons why, and that's what I educate my clients on. Is there are also lots of other forms of investing, but for me, real estate just checks all the boxes when it comes to being able to protect your capital, to produce multiple avenues of cash flow. It's always needed. Everybody needs to live somewhere, in good times and in bad, right? It just hits on so many levels. So I've made more money in real estate than anything else I've ever undertaken. So it's still my favorite.
That's good to know. So from that perspective, well, from any perspective, actually, I use this term Zen money. And for me, that means being really balanced and at ease and feeling really positive, and that there's plenty of opportunity around the financial conversation. But my question for you is, what does Zen money mean to you?
Very similar. And I think that's why, you and I get along, and from the first time we met, we were sort of like, hey, yeah, I like the way you think. I completely agree. I mean, Zen is a concept that I first heard about when I was a teenager, and I've been pursuing that in terms of, mindfulness and consciousness and meditation and all that sort of stuff, because ultimately balance, right? To be able to be in the center of the storm and still remain calm and relaxed and just be like, yeah, I got this. I can handle this. We're going to problem solve it. It might be a little challenging, but I can get through this. So that's what Zen money means to me, is being in a financial situation where no matter what comes up, the media is, oh, the sky is falling, this happened, that happened, all the rest of it. The economy is this, that, and the other. I remember the first time I heard the concept of, never mind the economy, what is your economy? Because when your economy is in a Zen state, it doesn't matter what's going on around you. And so that's what it really means to me. And that's why I love what you called it. And, I've got your books right here, my spring reading. Yeah, it's a great concept, and it addresses that whole mindset aspect of it. Because I've met lots of people that, again, they look successful on the outside, and on the inside, they're just about to, have a nervous breakdown.
Yeah, I have too. And it's just, it kills me because it's such an unnecessary piece of this business building entrepreneurial puzzle, I think. So based on this conversation, what do you think, what's the one big thing you'd like people to take away from this talk today? We've touched on a lot of different stuff. I think it's all important. Like, for you, what's the biggest thing that you would like our listeners to take away and think about?
Awesome question, because takeaways are so important. If you can't put this into action, and it's just more information, right? So, I mean, the one thing that we've already touched on a lot is the mindset. Even if listeners were just to walk away and be like, what is my money mindset? How do I automatically react when it comes to money? And that one can be a little bit difficult. So they might even want to ask some friends or their family members or their partner or their kids. Their kids will probably have a good idea of what their money mindset is, right? Are you an abundance person? Are you a saver? Do you get really chaotic around money? What is sort of your knee-jerk reaction? And in that, the bigger sort of takeaway is just start paying attention in general to finances. I have so many clients that call me and they're like, I've got a stack of reports from my financial advisor that I haven't opened in 2 years, or I don't even know what my credit cards are. I just pay the minimum and I don't even want to think about it. So many people that I've said, let's start bringing finances onto your radar and paying attention to it. Be that go in your bank account every day and just poke around and see what's going on. Open up those statements and book that meeting with your advisor that you've been avoiding for the past 6 months. Talk to your accountant and call the tax people and find out, yeah, you're behind on taxes. You'd be surprised. They'll make a payment plan for you that's going to work for you and for them. But
yeah, they will.
Something where you stop ignoring the money side of something and find out a simple and easy win that you can do around it. Because then it's like building a muscle. You get a little bit of confidence, and all of a sudden you can start to take on more and more and more.
Exactly. I took the words right out of my mouth. It's perfect conversation. So for everybody who's been listening to this, if you're liking what Brian has to say, or you want to check out some of his investment strategy advice, I highly recommend it. He knows what he's talking about. Where can people find you to do that, Brian?
So the name of my company is Next Level Success Coaching. And so the URL for that is N as in next or Nancy, nlscoaching.com. And people can look for me, Brian Bogaert, and send me an email at Brian B, and I spell Brian with an I, so Brian B at nlscoaching.com.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for being on Zen Money Monday today. I love this conversation. I know we will continue it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Liz. It was a pleasure and an honor, and I look forward to next time.
Take care. Hope everybody has a great Zen Money Monday. Look at your numbers. Don't freak out about them because they're just numbers. And let us know how we can help. Talk soon.